So, welcome to today's podcast. I'm joined by Mr. Matt Davison. Matt, thank you for coming on. Hopefully, you're going to share some good tips and advice. I think you must be the first guy based in South Africa to come onto the podcast. So, another little box ticked for me. I've had guys from all over the place, but not an African member at all. So good to have you on there. So are you actually a South African guy?
I am, yeah. My dad's British, so I actually quite like the UK quite a lot. But I'm South African, born and bred here. But it's really hard for South Africans to get jobs. We have quite a high unemployment rate, so working online and seems like a good way to go for a lot of us. But yeah, South African, Cape Townian a little bit.
You actually sound Australian. Believe it or not, I actually had this thing we're potentially Australian. I don't know, but yeah, who knows?
Well, I traveled for a lot. I mean, I traveled for 7 to 10 years, so I think my accent is not that South African. But yeah, it's got a blend, I suppose. It's hard when I tell people to guess where I'm from. I never get Cape Town or South Africa.
Yeah,
but yeah,
yeah, and you don't look that tanned either. You just look like your typical guy that's hanging about in Poland or one of those colder places. But anyway, so a bit about yourself. How long have you been in the SEO industry for?
I've been in marketing for about 10 years, but I was doing social media, website updating and stuff like that. And then I heard about SEO, read it online, obviously on Mars, all those years ago. And so I've been in SEO properly for about seven years, very seriously for about 5 years. But yeah.
So in terms of monetization, what is it you do on a day-to-day basis? Is it agency work, affiliate, or a mix of everything?
It's actually quite interesting. So I used to be an in-house. I started as an in-house SEO, and now today we try and have 50% affiliate, 50% client agency side. So on the one side, I have Travel Tractions, which is a travel marketing agency. On the other side, a lot of affiliate sites. I think I went to Chiang Mai SEO about 4 or 5 years ago, and I heard about all these guys making money with affiliates, and it just blew my mind. I was like, wow, okay, there's another way to this. And yeah, that was a big change. So I changed my whole systems to try and go after affiliate and clients pays the bills, and it's good money. But yeah, affiliates a lot of fun. So I try and distribute 50-50.
So obviously affiliates, I'm assuming you're targeting like the American audience and the same as everyone else. But in terms of client work, what type of clients does a guy based in Africa deal with? Is SEO a big thing in Africa, like for African clients, or are they from all over the world?
We are so behind. Like I think online buying in America is like 15 to 17, maybe even 19% now, because these stats are a bit old. Online buying of all sales is about that. And in Africa, it's like less than 1 or 2%. I know in South Africa it's 2%. So I mean that's crazy. So there's not a lot of SEO going on too much in Africa, more so now. But if you want to make money or convert customers easier, then you go after the American market, the UK market, the Australian market, because they pay. We're here, it's a lot of client education, and I think we all know how frustrating that can be sometimes.
No, sorry, my alarm's going off in here as well. No. So I just walked in the door, but never mind about that. No so what I was going to ask, obviously you're doing the same kind of work that most others go after, the UK, US and everything else. And even for us in the UK, getting a client in the US is a hell of a lot better. They've got more money to spend. They don't care about budget. Well, it's not that they don't care. They understand marketing better. And more open to spending more money. But what are the kind of benefits? Like, obviously, I think, the fact that you're based in Africa means that your overheads and stuff are going to be relatively low. So I take it you can go in with real competitive ass prices to beat most others. Is that an advantage you've got as an agency?
It is. It really is. I think that's what I hear from a lot of my big clients, is that we're just like so much cheaper than everybody else. So to be honest, we don't do a lot of pitching. So it's not like I have to, sell the USP of being the cheapest. I think my USP right now is that my main agency is in travel. So when we say that we specialize in travel, and I've been doing travel marketing for 10 years, that kind of sells it. But yeah, we can definitely outprice anybody in a first world country to a certain degree, but because we are kind of behind in the SEO or the digital marketing phase, like the knowledge is not so high here, so there's a lot of training and development that happens in Africa. So there's a lot of time that you have to invest into people, but we definitely are a lot more affordable than other countries, which is cool.
Yeah, so I want to touch a bit on the affordability side. I think in probably the last year or 18 months, a lot of guys in the UK, US, and probably even yourself to some extent, outsource certain elements of their work. And one of the biggest bugbears for any agency is going to be the content side of things. And we spoke about this briefly off air. Everyone just thinks you have to outsource to India, the Philippines, or whatever. But obviously, if you're outsourcing content to the Philippines, which is not their first language, you're always going to have people saying the content's shite, it's no good and whatever else. And obviously, you can pay a bit more for a well-educated person from the Philippines, and the content will be better. But something that's relatively untapped is the African market, because you guys, correct me if I'm wrong, by the way, but you guys, the first language in Africa or that's educated is English. Is that right?
Yeah, the first language for most countries. Maybe French sticks its head out in some cases, like Congo and stuff like that. But generally, it's English. Like English is the language of Africa, because we have 16 national languages in South Africa, just in South Africa. So you kind of need one to mesh them all together. So yeah, English is the first languages in schools and everything like that. So our English level is actually really, really high. But the world doesn't think so to a certain degree. Like if you want to become a TEFL teacher, teach English and foreign language, they need us to do tests and stuff like that. So a lot of people don't think that Africa is that maybe good at English, but we have an amazing English resource, which is kind of nice because you can tap into that if you know.
Certainly a lot of the guys that I would consider very smart in the digital marketing space seem to have this thing now for African writers. I've had a few guys and they're going, yeah, I've got a couple of guys out in Kenya who do my content. And I'm like, Kenya? Just, as I said to you again off air, Africa, obviously you look at the map and we look at Europe and you look across and you see, going across to Asia and then you go left to America. And Africa somehow gets forgotten. And, I don't know if that's just a personal thing, but I would never, ever, ever have look to Africa for content writers, until someone said it. But
honestly, I was doing it too. I never thought about Africa. Everybody says Philippines, India, you can outsource there. And for some reason, I was also a digital nomad, so I wasn't in Africa the whole time. And I had the same thoughts, like, okay, should I outsource to Africa? It didn't make sense to me until I moved back here, and I was like, wow, we are so affordable and so good at English. Like, why didn't I do this sooner? So yeah, it's very unassuming.
And you said the prices are Asian prices as well, so are not far off it. So it's a good thing. Now, obviously, for me looking to hire a Filipino content writer, I may go to onlinejobs.ph or find someone in Upwork, People Per Hour or something like that. Is there somewhere, or where's the best place for anyone listening who maybe want to try an African writer? Where's the best place to find these guys?
I can't say too much for Nigeria and Kenya, but you guys have Gumtree in the UK, and I think Craigslist in the USA, and Gumtree is quite big in South Africa. So if you advertise on Gumtree, you make an ad saying, "Hey, I want this and that with some requirements and this and that," I think you'll get a decent amount of requests. And Gumtree for me, and Facebook. Facebook is just killing everybody. The marketplace and the jobs and stuff like that. But we're having a lot of success with Facebook too. So I think if you made a job ad and targeted South Africa with content writers, you would be quite successful.
Interesting, because again, Gumtree in the UK is just saturated and it's garbage. But certainly for be curious if there was another way. But if Gumtree's the way to find them, then guys, if you're listening, get on Gumtree and try and find yourself some decent content writers out there. I've heard a lot. I'm going to probably try that out, and obviously you can vouch for it as well, Matt. So yeah, it's all good. But I want to talk a bit about your digital nomad lifestyle as well. So you're back in Africa, kind of based there. I know you do travel, and we've met at Chiang Mai, and I'm sure you go to many other conferences as well. But more on the digital nomad lifestyle, you know, what was your situation like? Where did you go to? What was were you just traveling your own and outsourced all the work, or how was the setup as well?
Well, my digital nomad lifestyle started quite interesting. I used to work for a travel agency, and I think anybody who's worked for a travel agency realized that you actually don't travel working in travel. And to get out of Africa or Cape Town, you're going to pay like $1,000 for a ticket anywhere. Where if you're in the UK, you can just pay $50 or $100 and you're in another country. Where here, it's quite different. So I went over to Asia, and also as a white male. I mean, we have quite an interesting history in South Africa with apartheid and whatnot. But as a white male, it's actually very, very, very hard for us to get jobs. So I was struggling to get a job out of university. So it became a necessity for me to actually leave the country and go find jobs in other places. So I went to, Thailand was looking for teachers quite heavily at the time, and I'd heard amazing things about teaching in Thailand. And I had some SEO. I actually had been working as an SEO marketer for like 3 or 4 years. And that didn't occur to me that I could go overseas and maybe get a job as an SEO. But anyway, I went to Phuket, and I was a teacher for 6 months or a year, about 10 months actually. And during that time, I told people what I did, and resorts or people who had websites would say, hey, can you help me with this website and that website? And it kind of just, started spitballing more and more and more. And eventually I could stop the teaching completely and just do consulting almost, and occasional audits and whatever. And I loved Asia. I mean, I think a lot of people who go over to Asia for 6 months or a year, they end up staying for a long time. So I think I was in Phuket for a year. I went to Bali for 3 to 6 months, Philippines, because you heard such beautiful things. I was in Chiang Mai for a while. So I kind of hopped around Asia, as you have to do visa runs and stuff like that, especially if you don't have a work permit. So I was in Asia roughly for about 4 or 5 years, just hopping around. I came back to South Africa for a year, did a stint at a digital agency because that's what I was advised. A lot of people say that to get good at SEO, maybe to learn about systems and processes, a big agency is probably the best place to do that. So a lot of digital nomads while I was traveling were saying, hey man, if you really want to level up and create a big company, you should probably do a couple of months at an agency. So I came back to South Africa, found a good agency here that had won some SEO awards. I knew that they were pretty good, and did six months there. And then was like, fuck it, I'm gonna go back to Asia. So yeah, that's how it happened.
So would you say that advice that you got in terms of, you were fucking about, doing your own stuff, doing audits and consulting for people, would you advise anyone in the same position to maybe spend that 6 months in an agency to get those 100%. Processes?
100%. Like, I was a very self-taught. I was in-house, and I was actually, my first job was with my mom. She had a couple of online travel agencies, and she's like, hey man, I'm paying someone in the UK 5,000 rand to do this. It was a long time ago. And so I was self-taught. I was, Whiteboard Fridays was the way I learned, in some forums and stuff like that. It was very different back then, 7 years ago. So up until that point, I knew a decent amount, but I didn't know the technical side. So the agency I joined was extremely technical, and I had like six SEOs sitting in my table. So we were a very strong SEO team at that thing. But where I could get up and ask a question, or if someone asked a question, I could just go and watch their screen. This was it was crazy to me. So I think in those 6 months, I probably learned more than I did in like the 3 or 5 years prior. It was one of the best things I ever did. So like, whenever someone is a freelancer and they've been doing SEO for like 2 or 3 years, and they're kind of self-taught, doing 3 or 6 months, like even in those 3 months, you'll learn so much. Doing 6 months in an agency, and also you get to use their tools. I think a big barrier to SEO starting is you need a lot of different tools. Like all tools are good at different things. Like, you know, I like Ahrefs for their links. SEMrush is pretty good, rank trackers and stuff like that. And those things add up really, really quickly. So when you're at an agency, it's kind of like, you know, you got 5-10 tools, you can try them out, and it definitely levels you up a lot quicker. So I recommend it to every guy is kind of starting out and maybe wants to build an agency, to be honest.
So out with taking their tools for 6 months without any kind of cost to you personally, was the processes the biggest thing though that you took away from the agency? Was that something that you were able to then take and replicate for yourself and maybe give processes to the guys you were working with?
Yeah, big time. To a certain degree. I mean, the agency was a really good agency, and it was like at the time 70 80 person agency. So they were using like Slack, and they were using Asana, and they were using maybe, you know, the tools even Rike they tried to bring in, which is I think it's Google's tool to a certain, it's a CRM tool, or it's a task management tool. But yeah, I think I could take in a lot of, because they were big. I think when you get to that size, when you're like a 70-80%, you're chunky. You can't, there's so much processes and systems that are actually broken. So I could go into that as like quite a normal person and learn their processes and systems and find out what they were doing wrong to a certain degree. And yeah, so that was invaluable. I could take a lot of their stuff thereafter. But after that, I freelanced for Ryan Stewart for a little bit, and his processes and systems are pretty amazing. So I think a combination of having a big chunky agency of like 70 people, and then Ryan, when he was, you know, getting deep into WebRes back then, that was invaluable. I would say Ryan's stuff is very good. So it was a combination of the two.
Yeah, no, Ryan's obviously a massive hit out there now. He's obviously grown arms and legs and over the years and stuff like that. So you obviously don't do that without good systems, good processes, and obviously good people behind them as well. So how long ago was it you were working with Ryan Stewart?
I don't want to say it was too long. It was like 5 years ago, and it wasn't long. I applied for a thing and did a job on it was loans or something like that. And at the time, I had worked really hard at the agency. I've been working for a long time, so I kind of, you know, said I would like to travel for a while. And I worked with him for like 2 weeks or a month. It wasn't very long, and then I kind of went and traveled. But in those 2 weeks and seeing some of the stuff that he was doing, obviously gave me a lot of a big leg up.
Yeah. So after you left the agency and went back to Asia, were you just freelancing again, or were you starting to think about building a team, or what was the...
At that stage, I was just trying to enjoy life, to be honest. Like, I love what I do. I love SEO. So at that stage, I just wanted to have a high quality of life, and I think you can do that in Asia with having like a fairly moderate paycheck. So I was staying in hostels and meeting people, and you know, finding just enjoying life. So I was probably not doing that much SEO. I was doing probably 2 or 3 audits a month, and a couple of, I was very good at on-page. So on-page was my background back then. So I didn't have to do much work for like a year or 2. I was kind of like chilling, just enjoying my life, traveling. And then I came across it was before the Chiang Mai SEO conference got big. I think Matts Digital was just like hosting a thing of high level SEOs back then. And I happened to be in Chiang Mai at the same time. And just hearing what these guys are doing and what they were making, I was like, it just blew my mind. And I was like, okay, shit, I got to step it up a bit. And I think a lot changed then. And then also at that time, I was getting like to the age of 25 or something like that. And I think you start getting a bit more serious. So I came across a startup that I was extremely passionate about. It was how to find events and things going on in different cities around the world. And at that time, I'd been traveling all around the world, and the best way to meet people for me was hostels or Tinder. And then now there was this cool event app that had just started. So at that stage, I moved back to South Africa, and I had to build a team for the first or the second time. And that's when I realized that shit, building a team is actually a lot of fun. I got back into the SEO and stopped traveling, because I think when you travel a lot, it could be hard to be productive the whole time. And when I came back to South Africa, it's when I got really, really, really serious and started like working 16-hour days again. And yeah.
So going back to what you just said there in terms of productivity, leading the digital nomad lifestyle, I just want to ask you a couple of questions on that before we go on to you building your team. So what, for anyone out there who thinks, I'd love to travel and do what this guy's doing, and stay in Thailand and travel Phuket and all that, what kind of monthly money do you need to earn to live a sustainable life over there? Because obviously the cost of living in Thailand is far cheaper than what it is in the UK or the US. But is it a rough figure? Do you need like $1,000 a month to live a
I always say $1,000 a month. Like we have a couple. Yeah, I always say $1,000 a month, and I encourage a lot of people to become a digital nomad and kind of like live that lifestyle, because in this day and age you can do that. A lot of people at Travel Attractions, they are aspiring digital nomads. So I'm like, guys, as soon as you get your $1,000 a month, you can just go over to Asia, to the Philippines, to Thailand, and go and experience that and travel. But yeah, generally $1,000 a month is the right amount. Yeah.
And you mentioned something about you had to hop around different areas and whatnot because of the visa kind of run, or whatever you wanted to call it. Again, for a guy in Europe, and I've probably got a lot of European listeners, like when we fly to Thailand, you fill out a bit of paper on the plane, and that's your visa, and you get there and there's no fucking problems. But we're only going there for Chiang Mai SEO. What is the situation in terms of visas? How long can you stay in an area, and what are the kind of costs and legal implications?
So you get a 30-day visa when you arrive. I actually got before I went over, I got like a 6-month visa or something like that. But generally you get a 30-day visa when you arrive, and then you can extend that for a month. And then you kind of have to leave. So you can do a visa run, you can catch a plane to whatever, or you can just, get in a bus, and 3 or 4 hours later you're in another country, and you cross the border and you literally sign some more papers, you come back. And that's what a lot of the guys do. So I think in most of the countries it's generally like 30 days. I think Bali maybe has a 90-day. I mean, Indonesia has a 90-day. But generally it's roughly that. It's so easy to do it, but it is disruptive. Like having to do that, you got to write off a day or two, which is not cool.
And is there no way a digital nomad can just get like a year visa? Nothing like that?
I think it's coming. I think we bring in, I mean, we make money in the USA and the UK and stuff like that. And then we, buying food and services and property, or maybe in these Asian countries. So I think that they're definitely opening those doors, and it's going to be very exciting when that happens. But there's a lot of progression happening. I think Thailand is working on that, but I don't want to say for sure.
Just because I know there's a lot of people often say to me on a personal level, when are you moving to Thailand? And, everyone's out there in the SEO industry. And I'm like, I couldn't be, one, my wife wouldn't allow it. And two, I couldn't with all that visa bullshit, having to leave the country. And I think the alternative option is to marry someone from that country as well, which is your other way. But yeah, I think it seems a lot of hassle. But hopefully they can work on that, and in the future maybe someone can go out and spend a year out there just traveling and working. Because it's, as you know, and I've been to a few places in Thailand. A lovely place, great atmosphere, great weather, great people. Not so sure about the food, to be honest, but
really, I love the food. Is like the best thing, to be honest.
Man, no, the food is. I mean, you're obviously from Africa. I'm from the UK. Your perception of it might be different, but I tell you what, we got to Chiang Mai one day, and there was 3 of us staying in a villa. So we went to the local Tesco, and we seen like these chicken feet. Like the actual feet of the chicken just lying there, and also the meat counter. Yeah. It wasn't packaged. There was no butcher guy there. It was literally everyone's hands were in the meat counter, and we were like, "Oh my fucking god, the hygiene here is insane." And really bad, by the way. And we lived on for the 2 weeks of Chiang Mai. it was McDonald's and the orange lays. We had a cupboard full of orange lays because no one would eat anything else. And we had other guys, and there was probably people like yourself around and stuff who are saying the street food in Chiang Mai is amazing, and they're eating this shit, and you're like, man, that does look like shit you're putting in your mouth right there. It was awful, but that's just a personal opinion. But
well, the next time you go there, you have to have like sticky ribs or a pad thai, obviously, but I mean that's the main thing. But sticky ribs is pretty good. But I get that, yeah. I was put off. I landed in Patong and like I didn't have fish because like I landed in Patong and there's just fish everywhere, and it's like it stays in this like 40-degree fucking Celsius weather, and you're just like, really? People are gonna eat that later, and yeah. So I was completely put off fish, so I can get with that. But I love spicy food. So I eventually, started trying more Thai food, and eventually I fell in love. Like now I cook Thai food like once a week. Here back in home. And I think one of the worst things about Thailand or Asia is just that the price of meat is so expensive. So like if you want to buy good meat, it's so expensive. And if you want to buy good cheese or dairy and stuff like that. And those are two of the best things in the world, man. So yeah, that's one of the negative things about Asia, is just those two things are quite expensive. Otherwise the food is good.
But on a positive note, in the pharmacy in Chiang Mai, you could buy Valium. If you're flying, you can buy antibiotics without a prescription from a doctor. And as I say, the event and the people and everything else is a great place. So it's got a lot of positives as well, out with the food.
Every place has its pros and cons.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm staying in Scotland, and lovely people, nice place, but the weather's absolute dog shit. So everywhere's got good and bads. But enough about that stuff. Going on to building a digital team. So you've obviously had a team before. You've done your Nomad thing, went back to an agency, went back to do some more Nomad stuff. Now you're coming back. You're older, wiser, more experienced, and you have to build a team. Let's talk about that. One thing that I think is a big bugbear is finding the right people who are reliable, trustworthy, who actually have a bit of a passion for SEO. I think trying to find staff isn't that easy. So what was your secret to building a team?
I think passion is just instilling that passion, or finding people that are passionate. Like you can't teach passion, and you can't find passion. And I think that you have to be fairly passionate about SEO or digital marketing, because it just changes the whole time. So you have to have like a genuine interest in it. Otherwise you're just gonna be left behind. So I think that was the hardest thing for me is I mean, man, I've probably sat in like 200 or 300 interviews in the last 2 years. And it had thousands and thousands of applications. So it's a numbers game, actually, to be honest. So just streamlining that process, having like basically an SOP of hiring and stuff like that is probably the best thing. But I hire for passion. So I hire people straight out of university or even people straight out of school. But if they built a website and have like a little bit of spark of interest, then hopefully I can turn that spark into a fire, and then it's good to go.
I think that's the key. Again, I've also had, I thought that was someone in my office. Is that your dog?
Yeah, that's my dog.
But I've had similar to you when I was building teams and stuff, and it was outrageous going through so many people, and you would get someone, and 3 weeks into the job they would say, this is not for me, fuck this, and you're giving them 2 weeks worth of training. So very, very hard to get the right people. But I think you're right. I look for younger people who've got some kind of passion. Those are the ones that seem to stick around. I think there's no right answer in terms of hiring an older person over a younger person, or I think if you're not interested in SEO, you as well, not hiring that person.
Yeah, and generally, people who are interested in online or have a pinch to try and solve problems. So people like gamers make great hires because they're so used to researching things online and trying to find like cheats, cracks, hints, and stuff like that. So I really like to hire gamers, but it's a tricky thing to hire. It's taking me a long time. I'm quite fortunate in the fact that both my parents are entrepreneurs. So at dinner discussions or whatever, it was often about business and, you know, about not hiring, but generally dealing with problems that are in their business. So I was quite fortunate in that regard. But yeah, if you hire for passion, like, you really can find some great people. When you hire for experience, it's a bit tricky and they're more expensive. So you're paying for experience that you're maybe not necessarily wanting. So yeah.
Yeah. So how big is your team right now?
We're about 25 or 27 people right now, which is fairly big.
Are those all in-house staff, or do you hire some in-house, some remote workers?
Yeah, so about 15. No, they're all in-house, and then some of them are part-time and freelancers, but they've gone through a 6-month training process where we're happy for them to be freelance, where we write SEO content. I don't think you can just take someone off the street and be like, hey, here are your keywords and write this content. Well, you could actually, and a lot of people do that, but we find that we train the writers to do keyword research, at least for their posts, so that stems ideas and gives them ideas of like what their heading structure should be like and stuff like that. When you have to write a 3,000 word post and you got your keywords, or you got like 5 keywords, I think it's quite hard. But when they go through the keyword research process, it helps them a hell of a lot get ideas and like at least brainstorm a little bit before they get into the writing process, which is cool. So we have, yeah, most everybody is basically in-house, and about 10 are part-time.
10 are part-time. I mean, obviously, I think you're probably in a much more fortunate position where you don't have to outsource because of the cost of the labour there. Where here in the UK, you're faced with, £1,500 a month or £2,000 a month versus, hiring a good African content writer for, $400 or $500 a month. That is the kind of flip side of it. So you are in a kind of more favourable position, and it would make sense to do that in-house. So in terms of your training, you said 6 months. Is that how long the training takes for you? Like just loads of different processes? You give them an extensive program before. Did they do that whilst they're still doing some form of work though? They've got to be productive from day one, surely.
Yeah, they do. That's the biggest thing. It's just, I think with SEO or with writing, it's, you can learn and then you got to apply it. Otherwise, it's just useless. Well, not useless, but it's just much harder. So we have a 3-month and a 6-month course or internship program where we hire people. Some people just want to be writers, but our end goal, at least at Travel Tractions, is trying to turn people into digital strategists, because I want to make SEOs. I don't want to make. We are a content mill at the moment to a certain degree. About 70% of our revenue is content. But yeah, so there's a 3-month thing that's like really structured, extremely structured, and it's very hard to deviate from it. So we give them a bit of taste of everything. They do a couple of courses. They do a lot of feedback and training with others. So I normally hire in batches of 3 to 5. So there's like a bit of a competitive element, and maybe some interns ask questions that others haven't asked, and they kind of assist each other. But yeah, we have a super structured 3 to 6 months, and we're hoping to actually flesh it out more and make like a proper course that we can maybe put online and let other people do.
Yeah, one final thing I want to ask you about that though is, do you tie these people into some form of contract? Because obviously that's a massive commitment for you to take people and give them that level of training. Are they tied in for a minimum of 2 years, or how do you make that stick for yourself?
I think that's one of the biggest pain points for us, is that it's so much investment. Like just our internship process, or just our recruitment process takes so much time. And then the training of them, I mean, they only really start adding value in month 2. So what we do is we scale it up. So we start them super low, and then we increase their salary by $40 to $70 a month, every single month, until they get to market-related salaries. So yeah, we just start them off super low, and the contract is normally 6 months. So it stays within regulation of pay for South Africa, and actually allows us tax deductions. But yeah, so the key is just as to communicate. As you learn more and you add more value to the business, your increase is your pay is going to increase. So yeah, we just start them off super low, but it is tricky because we are quite strict. And in that first month, we also try to ball the shit out of them with SEO stuff. So like we give them like huge guides to kind of, because I think you kind of want people who are dedicated and who are tenacious and will get through stuff. So we would give them like, I think one of my readings is SEO Hobo. I think it's called that, Beginner's Guide to SEO, which like 3 years ago at the time when I bought this course, was pretty long and boring. So it's like 150 pages of writing for SEO and Beginner's Guide to SEO. And it takes them like 3 days to read. So yeah, it's just a long process. It's really structured and stuff like that. And we weed a lot of people out, to be honest.
Yeah, you're always going to have dropouts, but no one's got the magic trick for building the teams just yet. But it was curious to find out more about some of the intricate details you do to try and make people stick, or some of the processes.
I think what we do there, I mean, okay, so after the 3 or 6 months, they can choose to be a freelancer, or they can, if the leadership team or the senior team wants to keep them as part-time, then I offer them. And what we do here is we offer revenue share. So 10% of all revenue of Travel Attractions or all the websites that I own goes and gets distributed between the leadership team. So I think that's a big thing. And then what we also do is after 6 months, but it's changed to a year now, I actually give them one of my internal projects or one of my websites that, like, I think running an agency and running a lot of websites is quite tricky. So what I do is they become the digital strategist of that. They become like the lead person of that. And I think they also get 10% of all revenue of that. And if we sell that website, if we flip that website, they get 10% of that. So that's like my golden parachute or my handcuffs. It kind of ties them into the long-term goals of the company, gives them independence and allows them to try their own things on their own website where they can kind of be quite fluid and flexible. And yeah, so I think that's worked really well. We have extremely high retention rates for people who are part of the team, which is pretty cool. I think that's quite important, is to try and tie people's performance into the long-term longevity and give them rev share. I think that's quite a cool thing to do, and it's helped us a hell of a lot.
Yeah, no, I think you have to do something to, as you say, golden handcuffs or whatever you want to call it, lure them in. And I think humans by nature follow money. So
and if they can see that,
well, glad to hear that's all working out. Sadly, we are out of time. We could probably spend 24 hours talking about all sorts of different shit, but I feel we've only scratched the surface with some of the stuff we could have talked about. But what's your plans? You know, do you offer services, or do you do content writing services for anyone who's maybe watching this going, he's quite a cool guy? Do you just stick to what you're doing, or do you offer services to the general public?
Yeah, we do. We do offer services, but to be honest, we're so busy. We're doing quite well, and I think if you grow too quickly, if you hire too quickly, like we've grown to 25 people in a year and a half, which is it's fairly quick. And at the moment, we're like chock block full. I'm hiring like crazy at the moment. I think I had 3 people start last week and 3 people start next week. So we do offer services. We have content writing services. We're really damn good at travel SEO. I think the goal is to be the best travel marketing agency in the world. So, I mean, that's the long-term goal of Travel Attractions. So if anybody has a travel website, I think we are the right people to speak to, especially for SEO. And then we'll be going into social media and development a little bit more this year and opening up new services. But we've tried to, I don't like client stuff too much. So we have a business where people can, it's kind of like SEO, but I have a huge amount of respect for Jonathan. I think his business is quite nice, where people can order on the website whatever they need, or conversion rate optimization, or content, or links, or whatever it might be. So we're kind of like going with that kind of business model. So at the moment, we are chock-a-block, but happy to take any more clients.
So where is the best place for people to find you? What's your domain name?
Travelattractions.com is probably the best place to find out more about us. And then Matt G. Davison on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. I'm a little bit active in the groups, but not really. But yeah, hit me up on Facebook. It's probably the best place if you want to get in touch with me directly. But Travel Attractions, travelattractions.com if you want to find out more about the agency and whatnot.
No worries at all, Matt. I'll put your links in the blog post that comes out with this as well. So, but thank you very much. Are you going to Chiang Mai this year?
I am. I'm going to take some of my team. I think I'm quite excited. I think it's one of the best conferences to do. I want to do a little bit more conferences this year. So, and are you talking? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that yet, but yeah, I agreed to it last week and signed the document. So hopefully,
nice. Yeah, I didn't get to see you last time at the last SEO conference. So it'll be good to see you again. I was drunk a fair amount of the time. Yeah.
You missed my talk. I can't believe that.
No, you didn't.
But nah, you'll see me this year, and hopefully I'll be able to, catch up with you, share a few beers, and with anyone else out there who goes. But yeah, as I say, thank you very much for coming on today and sharing some of those golden tips. And I will catch up with you soon.
Have a nice one. Cheers, man.